So it's quite rare to meet the Dharma because not every being in every realm can encounter the Dharma. It's just not there. And even within our human realm, the number of beings who have met the Dharma compared to those who have not is quite small. And within meeting the Dharma, to encounter the Mahayana and the Bodhisattva path is particularly precious. To really meet a path that teaches us about our Buddha nature, the potential to become a fully enlightened being, and the potential to live a meaningful life that is beneficial for other living beings. So just encountering that kind of path is quite rare and precious. And something that can have a very profound effect on our mind if we take the path to heart and train our minds in it. And so with the aspiration to fulfill the Bodhisattva path and make our lives now and in the future highly meaningful for all sentient beings, then let's learn the Bodhisattva trainings, the Bodhisattva practices. So I think we stopped right in the middle of one of the precepts, didn't we? My page marker was between page 88 and 89. Did we finish talking about all 5 hindrances or not?
We stopped at least where you were reading the second paragraph in general. There are a number of factors that haven't been read yet.
Okay, so we finished talking about each of the 5 hindrances. Do you remember what they are? Okay. See if you can do them from the beginning. Sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor or dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and regret, doubt. Okay? So try and notice those when they come in your mind. You can't notice them, then you won't be able to do anything about them. And instead they'll just hijack your mind and, take you all over samsara, as they have been doing. So it's really important to notice them. Okay, so that's where in your meditation, you want to have mindfulness that puts your attention on whatever object you're meditating on, and then introspective awareness that surveys the situation from time to time to see if you're still on the object. So it's going to be the introspective awareness that sounds the burglar alarm and says that one of the 5 hindrances is present, stealing your virtue. Yeah. If you don't turn your burglar alarm on, then what happens? The thieves just come in and have a jolly old party, and you come home and it's shambles. So that's like a meditation session where at the end the bell rings and you go, oh, gee, where was I for that last hour and something? Yeah, because your burglar alarm of the introspective awareness wasn't turned on. Sometimes the burglar alarm is turned on, but you say, I want to sleep some more. You know, or like, oh, well, a thief's in the house, but, you know, I'm kind of enjoying it, you know, it's kind of a good-looking thief, you know. Yeah, maybe I should sit down and talk to it, talk to him for a little while. So that's like, you know, when you have the hindrance of sensual attachment coming in, and it's like, oh, this kind of feels nice, and, you know, Prince Charming, and lying on the beach, and my daydreams of everything I'm going to do in the future, and, you know, it's kind of nice. Yeah, especially when you're having a Dharma daydream, then you can justify it a little bit more. You know, one of your planning sessions, like, I'm going to do this retreat, and I'm going to study this, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go there. You know, it sounds like, oh, well, this isn't really a thief. This is kind of Dharma. Yeah. But what happens is you may notice that your mind's off the object, but you're kind of enjoying it. Yeah. So yeah, you still have to catch it and say, this isn't going to work. I have to really do something about it. Okay? Or you start getting really angry, and, you know, introspective awareness notes, oh, anger is present, and you say, shut up, I'm just really finally getting in touch with the anger, you know. So be quiet, you know, it's like, finally I'm in touch with my anger. Yeah, but you know, I think we've been in touch with our anger before. Yeah, have you? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move into this paragraph starts. He's going to talk about what makes the afflictions arise. Okay, so he says, in general, there are a number of factors contributing to the appearance of the afflictions, like attachment in our mind. The Lamrim gives 6 causes that can be condensed into 3, but actually the 3 he listed here are 3 of the 6, so I don't quite understand how they're condensations. So I'm going to go through the 6. Okay? So the first one is the presence in our mind of the seed of an affliction that we have yet to eradicate. Okay? So what this means is sometimes the afflictions are manifest in our mind. You know, we're manifestly angry, or we're manifestly jealous, or we're, you know, arrogant or attached or whatever. But then sometimes, you know, the afflictions aren't manifest. Yeah. Like right now, maybe there's no great attachment in your mind, or no great anger in your mind. Yeah. So those afflictions aren't manifest. So does that mean that those afflictions are totally non-existent? No. You know, because still within the mind stream, there's the seed, there's the the seed, the potency that can give rise to a future moment of anger or attachment or pride or jealousy. So that's called the seed of the afflictions. So as long as we have the seeds of the afflictions in our mind, at one time or another we're going to have manifest afflictions. Okay? Unless you're very, very high on the path. Okay? But otherwise, you know, the seeds are going to produce manifest afflictions quite easily. So just having the seed on our mind is a cause for an affliction to arise. Yeah? Just having the seeds of weeds in the dirt is a cause for the weeds to grow. Okay? So we start eliminating the seeds of the afflictions on the path of meditation. On the path of seeing, we're removing the acquired afflictions, especially the acquired grasping at true existence. But, you know, the innate and the seeds that belong to that are removed only on the path of meditation. Yeah. So you see, those seeds hang around for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Moment of anger that becomes manifest, is that a seed? Or is there like a pot?
Well, the seed is more what carries the energy of the last moment of anger. You have a series of moments of anger. And then when the anger stops, it goes into the form of a seed. And that seed carries the potential for the anger to become manifest again. Okay? So that's why, when Thich Nhat Hanh talks about how we water the seeds in our own mind and how we water the seeds in other people's minds, that's what he's talking about. Like we may not have manifest love in our mind, but the seed of love is in our mind, the potency. So if we're kind to others, we can make the seeds of their love and compassion grow. If we practice the meditations on love and compassion, we can make those seeds grow in our own mind. Yeah. On the other hand, the seeds of resentment and everything else are also in there. And so depending on how we think, we can make those seeds grow. And depending on how we act to other people, we can make the negative seeds grow in their mind too. And so we'll get into that when we talk about some of the other 5 factors. It talks about those ways in which we water our own seeds or other people's seeds. Okay? Then the second one he mentions here is the proximity of an object that tends to prompt this disturbing factor or, affliction in us. So this is one of the ways in which a seed gets watered. Yeah? We have the seed of attachment, then, whatever it is you happen to be attached to, if you go and place yourself within the proximity of whatever that is, that's going to water the seed of your attachment. Yeah? So that's why I always say, if you weigh 300 pounds and you want to lose weight, don't meet your friends in the ice cream parlor. Because the proximity of the object just makes the attachment arise. Yeah? So this is one of the purposes of taking precepts, is that we are making a determination to not have contact with certain objects, because we know that our attachment or anger, whatever affliction it is just way too strong and is going to take over the show. Yeah. So this isn't a way of we are avoiding the objects that, set off our afflictions, but we're doing it for a purpose. We're doing it for the purpose of giving ourselves some mental space so that we can do the different meditations that will overcome those particular afflictions. Okay? So, people sometimes say, oh, you're a monastic, you can't handle your sexuality, you're just escaping. Yeah. Wouldn't that be so easy to escape? All the problems come from sex, if you just change your clothes and shave your head. But why are we not engaging in sexual relations? Because we see that our attachment just goes totally berserky, and then we have so many expectations on the other person, and we spend so much time worrying about them and worrying about the relationship and analyzing the relationship, and then we have very little time, left for Dharma practice. Yeah. So it's not that these are bad, relationships are bad and stuff like that. It's just we're choosing to go in a different direction in our life, and we don't want to water the seeds of our attachment, because we've had enough relationships to know what happens when that happens. Yeah? Okay? And then in the meantime, it's not like you look at somebody, of the opposite sex, or if you're gay, somebody of your own sex. It's not like you just are like this around somebody, I mean, sometimes you meet people who are like that, they're so afraid of their attachment, or they're like this. No, but you keep a distance, and then you work with your own mind so that you can really understand how your attachment functions. And by seeing, the disadvantages of attachment and the way attachment misunderstands objects, then, you wear down the power of the attachment, so that then when you contact the object, the attachment doesn't come so strong. And then eventually, as you further deepen your meditation, when you realize emptiness, then you start eliminating the seeds of the attachment in your mind. Okay? So it's, like anything, if something really sets you off big time, and you're trying to develop your mental capacity to deal with the situation in a skillful way, until you've developed the antidotes very strong in your own mind, it's better to have some space from that object. Yeah? The same goes with anger. If there's a certain person, let's say, who harmed you in the past, and when you see that person, your anger just goes so crazy and you want to get physically violent with that person, then, the best way, because you're so out of control, is to stay away from them, and then use the space that you have to meditate, and, meditate on love, on fortitude, on patience, so that you can learn to calm your mind so that it doesn't get so crazy when you're around that person. Okay? So it's a way of taking a time out to develop your skill. It's similar, well, yeah, that's good enough. Okay? So we kind of stay away from the objects, but again, without saying, I'm so attracted to that person. They're wrong, they're evil, they're disgusting, I can't stand them. Because, the Buddha taught the meditation about looking at the insides of the body, and he did that because it's a tool to help us overcome sexual attachment. But we shouldn't take that to mean that, whoever it is that we're attracted to is bad and evil and they're just disgusting, as if our body were pure. That's not the case at all. Okay? Okay. Then the third condition that makes our afflictions manifest is, he says, incorrect attention. It's what I call inappropriate attention, or distorted attention. So this is looking at the object in the wrong way. So it could be distortions, such as things that are impermanent. We look at them and we see them as permanent and unchanging. Things that are foul by nature, we look at them and think that they're pure. Things that are by nature unsatisfactory, we look at and think that they're blissful and desirable. Things that do not have a self, an essence, we look at as if they had some kind of inherent essence. So it could be those kind of inappropriate attentions. And then based on those, then we have even more inappropriate attentions. For example, we exaggerate the good qualities of an object we get attached to. We exaggerate the bad qualities of an object that we get angry at. And we exaggerate the importance of having other people's approval. And we exaggerate how awful it is when they disapprove of us or criticize us. So there's so much exaggeration in our mind, or projection of qualities that aren't there. This thing that happened, the murder of Trayvon Martin in Florida, is an excellent example of inappropriate attention. Because this, Zimmerman's driving down the street and he sees this kid, and then his mind just starts making up all sorts of stories about this kid that have nothing to do with what's going on. But he doesn't realize it's inappropriate attention. He believes the things that his mind is telling him. And as a result, even though the person on 911 said don't follow him, he starts following him and he gets into the, whatever it was that happened. But it's a very good example of, total inappropriate attention. And how awful it is. Look at the result, you know? Because he was seeing threat and harm where there was absolutely no threat or harm. You know, Trayvon was walking home from the grocery store. But this guy was seeing, you know, harm, potential harm to himself. So we do this too. Sometimes there's people who have no intention to harm us. But we go, oh, this person's, you know, going to damage me, and they're going to ruin my reputation, or they're going to do this, or they're going to do that. And our mind just spins out with all sorts of stories. So that's inappropriate attention. And it's something where we really have to watch our mind very, very closely, because when these thoughts come, we are so habituated to believing them. Yeah? And that's why I keep saying, don't believe everything you think. You know, because we think so many completely off-the-wall, nutty things. Don't we? Yeah? Okay, so this is where introspective awareness is quite important. And, you know, in NVC, when they say, just talk about the very facts of the, you know, of the situation, that cuts off a lot of the inappropriate attention. Because the inappropriate attention is all these emotional things, you know, and interpretations that we're putting on what's out there that don't exist there. Okay? Then the next one is that makes factor that makes inappropriate that makes afflictions arise is detrimental influences. Okay, that's a polite way of saying bad friends. Yeah, detrimental influences. Of course, you know, one detrimental influence is bad friends. Okay, but I'm certain that there's more. What we mean by a bad friend, Geshe-la Andarge used to say, yeah, oh, you think a bad friend has horns on his head, you're looking really ugly and coming out to get you. And he said, no, that's not a bad friend. A bad friend is somebody who wants you to be happy in the worldly way. Yeah, a bad friend is somebody when you go to work who says, why don't you get a life? Why are you going to that meditation retreat? How stupid, you're sitting there looking at your navel. Yeah, why are you doing that? Yeah. Better we go on a vacation to the Bahamas, or we go mountain climbing, or we go out to the movie. You know, why are you going to the Dharma group again tonight? You know, it's the second time this month. It's so often. You know? This is really unrealistic. And what good does it do? Yeah, we should, you know, really go out. Let's go to the bar and you know, have some drinks with our friend. Okay? So this is what's called a bad friend, in the sense that they're the ones who take us away from the Dharma, and they're the ones who encourage our afflictions. Okay? So, for example, when we're upset, let's say somebody criticized us, and we go talk to our friend and pour the whole story out to them, and our friend says, you know, you're absolutely right at being pissed off at that person, you know, and you should really go and, you know, tell the world what they've done and, you know, go and get them. Okay, so why is that person called a bad friend? Because they're encouraging our anger. They're encouraging our spite and resentment. Okay, a good friend is going to use NVC and say, are you angry because you're hurt? You know, are you angry because you need respect? You know, somebody who will help us work out our anger instead of telling us we're right and encouraging that affliction. Okay? So it's quite helpful in your meditations. Really spend some time and look at your friendships and see what seeds in you do your friends water. How do your friends act so that they, you know, what qualities do they generate in you by how they talk, how they act, what they encourage you to do, what they say about your life. Okay? And in the same way, look at the seeds that you water in other people's minds. Because there's some people that, we've known them so long that we encourage their anger or their attachment by what we say or what we do. Okay? Sometimes we want people to get attached to us. The love 'em and leave 'em syndrome. Come get attached to me, then I can reject you before you reject me. Yeah? And just look at the seeds that we try and water in other people's minds, the qualities we bring out in them. Yeah? Do we bring out their doubt by, kind of posing lots of ridiculous questions? Or do we bring out their resentment by talking about, how poorly other people have treated them and how, they should get even? Okay? So it's really a subject for quite a bit of meditation to see the seeds we water in others and to see what others water in us. And then to really, from that, when we have a good handle on, what is virtue and what is non-virtue, what do we want to practice and what do we want to avoid, when we have a good handle on that, then we can discriminate, well, who's a good friend who encourages my virtue and who is a bad friend who discourages it. It doesn't mean that bad friends are bad people or evil people. Yeah. But what they could be very nice people in one level. Yeah. But in terms of how we relate to them and our wish to really, not have our afflictions triggered, then they're bad friends, and it might do us well to not be so close to that kind of person. Okay? That doesn't mean we get angry at them. It doesn't mean we get fed up and say, I'm done with you, you're awful. But it just means that maybe we don't trust, we don't divulge as much, or we don't go to them when we have a problem and need some encouragement or advice. Yeah. But instead we pick people who are wise people who will help us, when we have difficulty in our own mind or difficulty in our life. Okay, then the next one is verbal stimulus. Yeah? So verbal stimuli can also trigger afflictions. And so conversations we have with people, they can trigger afflictions or they can trigger virtue. Yeah? Our relationship to the media. This is something to really look at, especially when you watch movies and that the movies have these, peak emotional things happening every 3 or 4 minutes to keep you, mesmerized. But what are they invoking in you? When you watch a movie with a lot of violence, what seeds are getting watered in your mind? Yeah, fear, suspicion, anger, hostility, partiality. Are those the seeds you want watered in your mind by this movie? When you watch a movie where there's a lot of sex and attachment and people grabbing for possessions and competing for possessions, what seeds are getting watered in your mind? Ignorance, that I'm an individual I. Yeah, arrogance, competition, negative kind of competition, attachment. And so to ask yourself, do I want to water those kinds of seeds in my mind? Yeah. Now, sometimes it's very helpful to, we need to know something about what's going on in the world. And if you read the news, for example, in the correct way, it can be a whole Lam-Rim book about karma. Yeah, incredible Lam-Rim book about karma. Really amazing. Yeah. And if you're, again, if you're watchful, you can watch how the stories are written to elicit certain reactions in you, and monitor your reactions. And like, okay, am I getting hooked into this story? Am I getting, somehow drawn in so that my afflictions are arising? And then, if so, what's the antidote? How am I going to calm my mind down from this? Okay? So I think it's very important to look at our relationship to the media, especially, if you're in the habit of reading advertisements. So it doesn't matter whether you're online and reading the ads, or whether you're looking at a magazine, even a Dharma magazine. Sometimes the Dharma magazines, the advertisements are written to really increase your lust and attachment, aren't they? And you're clinging to material possessions or Buddha boy or, something like this. So we have to be very, very careful. Well, how do we relate to ads? Okay, and there's advertising all around us. When you're driving on the streets, do you have the tendency to read the advertisements? And how does reading those advertisements affect you? Yeah, chocolate cake, 99 cents a pound. I'm pulling over. Let's go get some. Yeah. Okay. And then the last of the 6 factors that increase our defilements is habit. Yeah, and habit is a really big one because we're so much creatures of habit, aren't we? So much creatures of habit. In fact, sometimes we're just like push-button automatons, aren't we? Yeah? Somebody says, open the window. We say, no, close the window. It doesn't matter if it's 2 degrees out or 20 degrees out or 100 degrees out. Close the window. Or it doesn't matter if somebody says, hello in a certain voice. We react like that. That tone of voice reminds me of the way, somebody spoke to me when I was 5 years old. Yeah. So just so much habit. So this is habit. It's also inappropriate attention, isn't it? But how much just habitual reactions to certain stimuli set us off, and we aren't even aware of it because of this inappropriate attention that's just been existing that we've never questioned and never tried to counteract. Yeah? So sometimes, like we hear somebody that we don't like, or somebody who we're competing with, we hear that somebody criticizes them. And automatically inside us it feels good. Have you noticed that? Like automatically, there isn't one split second. Yeah, it's like, oh, that person got criticized. Good. And then you stop and you go, wait a minute, I'm trying to cultivate love and compassion. Why am I rejoicing that somebody else got criticized? Yeah, or somebody else got hurt, or somebody else, got put down or lost or whatever it is. Yeah. So there's just that habit. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes in our dreams we can see our habitual reactions very clearly. Just habitual old ways we have. Like there's one thing I see, that sometimes when I'm too lazy to I know I should be doing something and keeping on top of something, but I'm kind of too lazy to do it. So then when it doesn't get done and somebody calls me on it, I say, oh, but nobody reminded me. Yeah. But in the back of my mind, I know, I should have been tracking this better. But this is just the habit that I have. How do I make up excuses so that people don't think poorly of me? I say, oh, but nobody reminded me. Yeah? So I absolve myself, But this is just a very stupid habit. So we can look and notice these kinds of things. Or sometimes when somebody says to us, did you do this? Our instant reaction is, oh, they're going to criticize me, they're going to get me. And, we have absolutely no idea why they're asking that. Yeah, but we're sure, did you do this means I did something wrong, Yeah, because I'm just so much used to when my parents said, did you do this, that it was like I knew what was coming. So now when everybody says, and then we instantly say, no, and then, oh, well, it was something I really liked too. I wanted to thank the person who did it, and then we're going, oh, shucks, Okay, but just to look, sometimes, we have the habit just to tell these little white lies when we feel like something's happening. We're afraid of getting blamed, or afraid of somebody's criticizing us. We're afraid we're going to look like a fool. We don't really understand the situation very well, but already we want to cover our tush, so we tell a little white lie. Yeah, and it's just a habit. And what's amazing is sometimes, you can tell when somebody's doing that. Yeah, and very clear and well they're not telling the truth. Yeah, and you're kind of tempted to say something, but then that person's going to make up even another excuse. Yeah, because the person doesn't have the ability to say yes or no, I did this or I didn't do that, So, but sometimes we're that person, so we don't answer questions straightforward because we're always, our habit is, well, just self-protection. Let's protect my ego under any, even mild suspicion of threat. Yeah, and then it creates so many problems. Yeah, and sometimes we look so foolish, especially when somebody knows we're making up an excuse. Yeah, and they may not say anything, but it's like, yeah. Okay, so that thing of habit, to really watch what our habits are. Watch also what habits, when we want to relax, how do we relax? What are our habits for relaxing? And does what we do for relaxation really relax us? Or does it stimulate afflictions? Yeah? We should really kind of check that out. Okay? Yeah. Oh, I'm relaxing in front of the TV, watching the Red Sox. But the Red Sox are losing. Oh dear. I'm so upset. Yeah. Okay. So any questions on this part so far? Yeah.
I have a question about when you were talking about the presence of detrimental influences, and you talked about us encouraging attachment in other people, and I was just curious about how that relates to our own affliction.
What do you mean? How?
Like that we're talking about watering our own afflictions, or I mean,
okay.
Right?
Okay. So when I'm talking about how we encourage other people's attachment, you're asking how does that relate to our own affliction? Right. Okay. It could be that, we're attached to something. We want them to be attached to the same thing. Then we can go off and enjoy it together. Okay? So sometimes it's that kind of thing. Or we're angry, we want our friends to be angry and upset about the same thing. Mm-hmm. So is that what you meant?
Yeah. So it's like we need like understanding.
We kind of, sometimes we don't feel so secure with what we're feeling. So the more people who think or feel like we do, the more we are convinced that what we're thinking or feeling is good and correct. You know? Of course, does that mean, because a lot of people believe it, does that mean that it's good? Does that mean that it's correct? No. You know, I mean, a lot of people believed in Nazi dogma. Does that mean it was good or correct? But you see, when we don't have the ability to trust ourselves and evaluate with clear wisdom what we're thinking and feeling, then we rely on other people to tell us who we are. Yeah, and this is really, this can be really scary because we have no ability to kind of evaluate our own attitudes and actions, and completely depend on whether other people approve or disapprove. Yeah, and so especially if we're attached to somebody, if we get other people attached, if we're attached to something, if we get other people believing that, if we're biased and prejudiced, if other people are biased and prejudiced in the same way, then we feel more justified. Yeah, if we're angry at, you know, a certain person or political party or whatever, if other people feel that way, then we think, oh yes, you know, my anger or my cause or whatever it is good. Yeah. So what we want to do is, if we have that tendency, is to ask people who are wise for their thoughts and advice. Yeah. We usually ask the people who we know are going to agree with us, who are going to support our afflictions. But, you know, if we're really smart, we would ask people who we know are wise. You know, what do you think about this situation? And then get some tools to learn how to evaluate things ourselves. Yeah.
Something like this, what you were talking about would be very nice if it was explicit joy as a teaching in the beginning on how the influence of the society and movement is so strong.
Yeah. So in school, you're saying, you know, teach kids how to think for themselves. Yeah. Which is happening less and less nowadays, because kids are so busy wanting short answers to ridiculous questions, you know. But our friends, you know, Donna tells me, you know, she's a teacher, and she says it's so difficult to get the kids to really think about something, you know, in a serious way.
Well, it's also, like, there's so much standardized testing, you know, which is really challenging when teachers have this burden to make their kids have to do a standardized test.
Right.
And that's all they can teach them.
Right. Yeah, when teachers have to teach kids how to do well on the test, right, instead of teaching them how to think. Yeah. Other comments or questions about this? Okay, then we'll go on. But there's a lot that's very rich for meditation in here, wouldn't you say? Yeah? Uh-huh.
Knowing what these are
Uh-huh.
makes the introspective awareness smarter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but just having these 6 in your mind make your introspective awareness sharper and also smarter, so that you can, you know what to look for and you can catch things better. Yeah. Oh, about the media, you know, I was just thinking of like people who listen to Rush Limbaugh, you know, and you listen to that, and then you hear it enough, and then you just start to believe it. Well, everybody thinks that way. Yeah? So, you know, we have to be very, very careful to what we listen to quite often, because we just start thinking in that way. And it can be quite dangerous. Okay. So he goes on here. These are the major obstacles to the development of one-pointed concentration. We commit this secondary misdeed by not trying to discard them, first by learning how they arise and what remedies them, and then by applying their antidotes. Okay, so the way we transgress this precept is because we don't try and learn what the afflictions are, we don't try and learn how they arise, and we don't try and learn what their antidotes are. Okay. Each hindrance has its specific antidote. So these are things you should know off the top of your head. Yeah, because if you can't remember them, definitely you won't be able to apply them. So the remedy to restlessness and regret is drawing the mind inwards by contemplating death and impermanence and fixing our attention firmly on the object of concentration. I would say, especially for restlessness, drawing the mind inward, trying to focus on the breath or whatever object you're contemplating is very good. For regret, I think it can be very helpful if you're regretting something that needs to be regretted, to do purification practice and then really let go of whatever that regret was. Learn from the situation. And yeah, if you're regretting something like, the person at the bank gave me $200 extra and I gave it back to them. I really shouldn't have done that. I could have used the extra money. If you're regretting that kind of thing, then you should really purify. Okay? So if you're regretting a virtuous action, you need enough wisdom to catch yourself and say that's the wrong kind of regret. Okay, the antidote to lethargy and sleep, to dullness and drowsiness, is to visualize sunlight or moonlight. Another is to contemplate our great fortune by having an excellent human rebirth with all the favorable conditions for spiritual practice. Yeah, so you contemplate something that is going to uplift your mind. Yeah. If you're not familiar with the precious human life meditation, then it's going to be hard for it to uplift your mind. It might just inspire doubt instead. But if you're familiar with the meditation, then it can be very good. And in terms of what he said about visualizing sunlight and moonlight, it can be very helpful. Like when you exhale, to think that you're exhaling all the drowsiness and dullness in the form of smoke or pollution that just evaporates. And then when you inhale, that you're inhaling light that fills your whole body and mind. Or another method is, like if you're visualizing the Buddha, to make the object of meditation very bright. Yeah, to really brighten it and clarify it in your mind. I find sometimes if I think bright with sparkles, yeah, I think if it's sparkling, then it really helps, A further method to shake us out of a state of lethargy is to reflect on the superior qualities of the Buddha and of enlightenment. So again, a topic that's inspiring, that's going to uplift our mind. The antidote to ill will is meditation on love, okay, or patience, fortitude. To counter attachment to sensory objects, we contemplate their disadvantages and their unappealing traits. So contemplating the disadvantages of these objects, and then really looking at the things that we're attached to and asking ourselves if they're really so appealing. And if getting them is really going to make us happy. I do that sometimes if I get attached to something. Then I, like in my meditation, okay, let's live this out, this and this and this, and I get the whole thing, and then I say, now am I forever happy? And it's like, no. Okay, well, then I don't need to get attached to that. It's just not gonna cut it. The antidote to doubt is to examine the manner in which our self exists As a person, we do not exist inherently or independently. Nevertheless, at a relative level, our self does exist, but only in relation to other phenomena, such as our body and our mind. By reflecting on our conventional mode of existence, instead of remaining vague, we gain insight and acquire convictions that enable us to overcome doubts about what exists and what does not. I wonder, by reflecting on our conventional mode of existence, I think it should also say ultimate mode of existence there too. Yeah, so that instead of remaining vague, we gain insight. Yeah. So including in this, I would say, meditating on impermanence, meditating on unsatisfactory conditions, yeah, these kinds of things. Then it's going to really help to clarify our doubts. Mm-hmm. Two virtuous mental factors, integrity and consideration for others, serve as general antidotes to all 5 hindrances. Okay, so these two are important for all 5. The first, a sense of integrity. He translates it as shame here, but the word shame in English can have several different meanings, and it can sometimes be a pretty heavy-duty word. So I prefer to use self-respect, sense of self-respect, or a sense of our own integrity. Okay? So it arises in relation to ourselves when we realize that we are under the influence of a hindrance. We feel self-conscious because we know that it isn't right to surrender to the hindrances, and furthermore, that by doing so we are producing negative karma. Okay? So the sense of our own integrity is like we care about ourselves. It's like, I know this isn't proper. I know this isn't a good thing to do. I have a sense of my own moral integrity, my own self-respect, and because I respect myself, then I'm just not going to get involved with this. Yeah, it might be tempting, there might be a lot of peer pressure, but, I'm not going to feel good about myself if I get involved in this. Yeah, so it's using ourself or our Dharma practice as a reason to restrain from negative, involvement with an affliction or a hindrance or something like that. Okay, the other general remedy is, he translates it as embarrassment, but it's not really embarrassment. I think it's more consideration for others. Okay, in relationship to others, at the thought that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, our teachers and our spiritual companions, know or might learn that we are yielding to a hindrance in meditation. So if, this is more the idea that we care about what wise people think of us, not because we're attached to our reputation, but because they're wise people, and we want to, be worthy of wise persons' appreciation or approval or whatever. So it's not attachment to reputation. It also includes knowing that our actions affect other people, and that if we do something and other people find out about it, they could lose faith in the Dharma, they could lose faith in us, it could really harm their trust or destroy the relationship. So because we care about other people, then we refrain from negative actions. Or in this case, we refrain from the hindrances in our meditation. Furthermore, there are certain behavioral remedies. In the case of dullness and drowsiness, we can get up and walk around or wash our face with cold water, for example. Yeah. So it said if you're meditating and your mind is just so dull, yeah, that then get up and, wash and do prostrations and, go somewhere cold, or, dismantle your empire, take off the blanket on here and, your jacket and your hat, and, the cold will wake you up. Yeah, sit up straight. Do prostration so that your body is active. All these things kind of help. For the other hindrances, the best is to compel ourselves to remain in meditative posture and channel all our powers of memory and mindfulness into generating the object of observation in our mind and keeping it there. So with the other afflictions, you don't just kind of, my mind's going crazy with attachment, my mind's going crazy with doubt, or I'm so dissatisfied, or I'm so restless, and so you get up and leave. They say no, he's saying no, that's not the best way to handle it. It's to stay there and learn to work with your mind in one way or another. And just develop some creative way of, working with your mind. Yeah. Sometimes if your mind's really crazy, open your eyes and just look at the Buddha. Yeah? And just look at the Buddha. And you see the Buddha's expression, you see how he's sitting, and then that speaks to you. Hmm? Okay, so there's a few minutes for questions, if there are any. Yeah.
About Eucharistic concept that it's purifying and letting go.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a certain thing like that's purified, and it doesn't feel like it goes. It feels like I may be, revisiting it or something.
Okay.
Like wanting to just lay it down and say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
But then it comes back.
Back.
Some sort of sense of, I'm really done.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So sometimes you've done purification, you really want to let something go, but your mind won't let it go. Yeah. So there I think you have to sometimes, first of all, purifying something once doesn't mean that the karma's been purified. There's some of our actions that we need to really spend some time. And we might purify it and it doesn't come up for a while, and then a year later it comes up again. So we need to work on it at a deeper level this next time, and it takes time sometimes to purify these things. Okay? Then there's another kind of way in which, we're very clear that I'm not going to do that again, but it's like our mind wants to taunt us. And it wants to, do you know what I mean? There's a certain kind of thing of, like, oh, you did this, how are you going to avoid doing that again? Or aren't you a terrible person? Or, there's a certain kind of tone or flavor in the mind where we could see that it's basically an affliction that's arising to taunt us and distract us from doing our meditation. So that's something different than real regret. That's just our berserky mind, kind of bugging itself.
So that it does feel like it has that flavor, like, are you sure? Are you sure it's gone?
Yeah.
Are you sure you'll never do that again? It's like, oh gosh, it's awful.
Yeah. So you have to look, and if you're, then you say, okay, how sure am I that I'm not going to do that again? And you review, your antidotes, you review your determination, and then, if you come to the same thing, no, I'm really clear, I don't want to engage in that again. Yeah? Then that kind of taunting, jeering mind has no space. Yeah. If you buy into it and say, oh, I don't really know. Maybe I really want to do this. Oh, it's kind of good. Then you're off and running, aren't you? Mm-hmm.